Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Osowa Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by Vincent McCory from Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Our broadcast here looks a little different because of the global pandemic, but we truly appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Osowa in Lagos brings you that story.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the Lagos-Ibadan Rail among several projects in Lagos initiated by his administration and the Lagos State government. The president says his administration will continue to prioritize the railway system as a means of transportation that can transform industrial and economic activities in the country. The full commercial operations kicked off Tuesday, June 15.
This edifice in Ebute Metta is a symbol of the ready state and functional Lagos-Ibadan Rail project. The project is darling to the administration, and the president is definitely the man to carry out the official function. President Buhari arrives at the venue with the auditorium already packed. Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka, the host minister Rotimi Amechi, Minister of Works and Housing Babatunde Fashola, Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, and many other dignitaries are also in attendance.
Excellency, Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu speaks on behalf of Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun and Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo, whose states are direct beneficiaries of the $1.6 billion project.
Our three states have benefited greatly. Lagos continues to be home to the flagship station on this line, where we're seated, my predecessor, Mobolaji Johnson Station, which is here on this ground. Ogun State has the iconic railway wagon assembly plant in Kajola, and Oyo State is home to an inland dry port that will help decongest the Apapa port.
Rotimi Amechi to now deliver his address.
The project had its fair share of setbacks, and the minister, who's been on the front line to see the project through, says the president already has a track record of completing rail projects.
This occasion is the third time Mr. President is commissioning a standard gauge railway infrastructure project, completed and delivered under his watch. Even though Kaduna Abuja was started by the regime of President Goodluck Jonathan, we completed it and commissioned it. We completed the one Itabewari, and I am happy the responses we are getting from people who use the Itabewari rail line. And today, we are here in Lagos.
For the president, the project is another milestone in the administration's drive to revitalize the railway as a major means of mass transit across the country and beyond.
The Federal Ministry of Transportation and Ministry of Finance have been directed to vigorously act on engagement and reaching financial agreements with appropriate co-financiers to partner with the federal government for the development of the Ibadan-Kano Railway and the connection to the Tin Can Island port, as well as the west to east coastal rail line from Lagos to Calabar, linking Onitsha, Benin, Warri, Yenagoa, Port Harcourt, Aba, and Uyo.
It's time for the main business of the event. The president leads other dignitaries to perform the official launch.
Joining us to discuss this is a National Vice Chairman, Nigerian Institute of Civil Engineers, and Vice Chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Lagos Chapter, Engineer Omolola Adetona. Glad to have you on Africa 54.
I'm happy to be here, sir.
What is your impression about this rail project that's just been recently launched?
Wow. The rail project is a federal government project, and it's actually laudable. It's actually a project that we're all happy to have at this time. It's solving a lot of issues. It's a great solution to transportation challenges, and it's also an encouragement to development and growth in the rural areas, even in Lagos as the central urban business area. Presently, I think it's the first phase that was launched on the 10th of June. It's meant to fly from Lagos to Kano, covering a distance of about 2,700 kilometers. But right now, the one from Lagos to Ibadan has been commissioned. Really, really timely or overdue.
Well, in order to sustain that excitement, standards have got to be top-notch.
Yeah.
How well do these ones measure up with international standards?
Well, on the international levels, I know that they're probably using electrified trains, but that it is, we're not there yet. But what we have is a double-tracked standard gauge rail, one of the most talked about and best in West Africa. We will get there with time, but the journey of 1,000 miles, they say, starts with this. So we're not at the zero level anymore. We have moved. And the only thing we can do is get better for it. So it's a good one, and the quality is being assured, and we're happy that this is actually running.
So what should be done to maintain the standards, to keep them running?
Yes, we need to keep them running. We need to keep them patronized. We need to keep them maintained, serviced. We need to keep them up to date with standards and environmental pressures. For instance, I would like to add to it that we're hoping that more trains will come so that more mobility will be affected. We're happy that it's going to reduce accidents on our roads. It's going to encourage transportation and less traffic congestions, and cargo transportation, so it gets better with time. We're also hopeful that the time can also be affected with time, because I would have preferred, for instance, that it takes off from Ibadan at 6 a.m. to get to Lagos for about 8, when people that live in Ibadan can get to Lagos and get to work on time, and maybe leave Lagos about 5, 6 in the evening to get to Ibadan for those that are resident there and are working there. But I know that it's a gradual step, and eventually we'll get there. This is a double-tracked standard gauge rail. That means that we can have both trains going at opposite directions. We can have trains taking off from Ibadan at the same time taking off in Lagos, so that we have both stations being populated, and there's exposure, there's employment, there's development.
What do you say to those who ask questions about the safety of traveling with this at this time?
For now, the rail lines are safer, or seem safer than the roads. Maybe faster to some extent, and it could only get better. Like I said, safety is everybody's business. Everyone is responsible for safety. We are all responsible for our securities as well. We all know how we protect our homes, don't we? So we need to take ownership of this project. We need to know that it is ours, and we need to keep it well. We need to keep it safe. We need to make sure that there is no vandalization of the rail lines or theft here and there. So we need to advocate on ownership of this big project. It's a massive investment by the government, and it is ours. It's like when we go on riots and we throw tires on freshly done good roads and we start having bombs. What are we destroying? Our properties. So we need to enforce advocacy in our minds to say, let's take ownership of this project. Let's own it. Let's make it ours. In that way, you can be sure that there will be security, there will be safety, and there will be higher level of confidence for people flying, for people using it, and even for the whole environment.
And speaking about vandalism, there are questions as to what's going on and how. Do you think that the fast clips that might have been used to hold on the track is any issue at all?
It's not any issue as of now, but we could get better. You see, the issue is when you get an hint or a tip of what's about to happen, you can now design your factors to work against it or to protect it. The rails are in order, the clips are in order. Yes, there have been some vandalization along the line, but we're getting better knowing that, okay, this is our weaknesses. and then we look for solutions. That's what engineers do already. They are problem solvers. They look for solutions, even for problems that are yet to exist, so that if it comes along, then they're ready. So we need to, just like I said, be confident in what we have. We need to do a lot of advocacy. We need to have confidence and do a lot of troubleshooting. What really could go wrong? We have surveillance cameras that could look at protecting these lines, keeping them safe. We have devices. The IT world is now so fully developed that we can have devices monitoring vibrations, monitoring these rail lines, and ensuring that it stays fit to purpose.
All right, then, Omolola Adetona, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
An investigative report this year accused the Burkina Faso representative of Swiss American tobacco giant Philip Morris of funding terrorism through tobacco smuggling. Despite a UN report also calling him a smuggler, Apollinaire Compaoré has rejected the findings in an exclusive interview for VOA with reporter Henry Wilkins in Ouagadougou.
Selling cigarettes to smugglers who pay jihadists to protect the convoys. That's the accusation levelled against the Burkina Faso representative of Philip Morris International by the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP. In a February report, the Sarajevo-based group cites officials, rivals and former colleagues of Apollinaire Compaoré who accuse him of funding terrorism through smuggling into Mali, Niger, Nigeria and Libya. It also accuses Burkina Faso authorities and the Swiss-American tobacco giant of being complicit in a vast smuggling operation centred around a warehouse in the northern town of Marcoy.
Indeed, we think Philip Morris was aware of what he was doing. There's also clear indications that parts of the Burkinabe state, including customs, were involved in the warehouse at Marcoya. In fact, the customs officer we interviewed characterized it as a mafia at the top of the state.
Burkina Faso's customs was not available to comment on the accusations against the agency and Compaoré, who also owns a major bank and telecoms company. In a written response, Philip Morris said there is no evidence of wrongdoing by the company and no information indicating their products shipped to Burkina Faso were smuggled into neighbouring countries. But a 2019 UN report also found that a company owned by Compaoré supplied regional smugglers, says one of the report's authors.
He knowingly supplies those that traffic, and he must be aware of this because there's no legal market for those cigarettes once he brings it to northern Burkina Faso.
In an exclusive interview for VOA, Compaoré refutes all these accusations.
Yes, the United Nations lied, and even those who worked on the report for them are no longer employed by them.
One of the richest men in Burkina Faso, Compaoré also dismissed claims in the OCCRP report that two of his companies have never paid taxes.
Are they the Director of General Taxes? They are all lying to harm me. They are lies.
When asked if there is any evidence of Compaoré being involved in cigarette smuggling, a Burkina Faso tax department official cited confidentiality laws.
But what I can say is that the tax authorities are very rigorous. We do not allow this type of action to go unpunished.
Whether or not authorities take action, the allegation that cigarette smuggling supports Sahel terrorism is not expected to go away anytime soon. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
It's time now for a short break, and as we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, meet the female boxer fighting off stigma by training men in Egypt.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCoy in Washington. A new algorithm tool is helping social workers better detect kids who are in high-risk child abuse situations. Dina Michel reports.
For caseworkers answering hotline calls, how a child abuse allegation is handled can mean the difference between life and death. Receiving around 16,000 hotline calls each year, Allegheny County's Office of Children, Youth, and Families in Pennsylvania has a monumental task. In the past, caseworkers relied only on their training and gut instinct to prioritize investigations. Now, an algorithm is lending a hand and making a difference.
We could never, ever go back to where we were, quite frankly, and feel comfortable that our gut and our clinical judgment would suffice.
Algorithms are already used to determine the online advertisements people see, rate creditworthiness for a loan, and screen applicants for some jobs.
It's more than 7 million children who are reported for abuse or neglect each year. This kind of effort is really just helping frontline screeners and staff use data to make better decisions.
When a call comes in, the child's name is entered into a database, as well as that of the parent or an alleged abuser.
The Allegheny Family Screening Tool goes into the integrated data warehouse and pulls up all the structured information that's known about this family and summarizes it in a simple score. And that score is really a sort of future risk of harm score.
The team says it has always been aware of the possibility of inherent bias in the tool, noting that law enforcement and social services databases are often filled disproportionately with people of color and the poor. But a study published in 2019 by Stanford University showed that so far, the algorithm has resulted in less racial bias in deciding when to pursue possible cases of child abuse compared to human analysis alone. Dina Mitchell for VOA News.
A young woman is helping rape victims and survivors express themselves and heal through body movements in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Amina Lusambo has set up dance sessions as therapy for survivors at a rehabilitation center attached to Panzi Hospital in Bukavu, Eastern Congo.
It was the silence of the traumatized young women she saw before her that convinced dance teacher Amina Lusambo she must do something to help. So she set up dance sessions for rape survivors at a rehabilitation center attached to Panzi Hospital in Bukavu in Eastern Congo, which according to hospital authorities has treated more than 60,000 survivors of sexual violence in its 20 years of operation.
I started doing this because of the girls who came to us in a state of silence. They were raped at a young age and they didn't know how to express themselves. And when I saw that through dance therapy, we could diagnose them through the movements of the body, I thought, why not adapt it to the youngest rape survivors and see how it works?
Now, the same women line up in brightly colored leggings for her classes, where they learn to reconnect with their bodies. The Panzi Hospital and Rehabilitation Center was founded by Denis Mukwege, a Congolese gynecologist who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018 for his efforts to end the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war and armed conflict.
More than 60,000 women have already been treated here. We were able to organize holistic care, which means we don't just do the medical treatment anymore. We also do psychological care. We support women to reintegrate them into society by empowering them.
One 20-year-old woman in Lusambo's class says dancing has released her from the pain and fear she held inside, allowing her to sleep peacefully and smile again.
When I came to the Panzani Foundation, I was in a very bad state. I was too scared. I was hiding and didn't even want others to see me. But thanks to dance therapy, I began to approach people. I understood that my life was not yet over. I realized that I was still important in society.
Experts say Congo has made some progress in combating sexual violence. Several high-level militia and army commanders have been prosecuted for rape in recent years, but the problem remains pervasive.
Burkina Faso has a growing comedy scene that, despite the international popularity of French Burkinabe comedian Rokiata Ouedraogo, is still dominated locally by men. But a fresh initiative hopes to change that, as Claire McDougall reports from Ouagadougou.
Rukiata Udrago helped bridge the gap between French and Burkinabe comedy, becoming known in France and famous in her home country. But Burkina Faso's comedy scene is dominated by men in a country where women are expected to be housewives. The organizer of Ouagadougou's annual Festival of Laughter and Comedy hopes to change that through training.
All day it is working in the house. For comedy, you need time for reflection, writing good sketches, a good amount of words to share things you can perform in public.
The country's male comedians train 10 women on scripting, improvisation, and performance for the festival. They got support from the Ministry of Culture and Tourism.
There is also a cultural problem. In Burkina Faso, women are more reserved. They aren't so exposed. We want to take this warmth, this comedic oxygen, to say that women can make it.
The women comedians also hope they can help Burkina Faso, a country struggling with insecurity and displacement, to laugh again.
You are displaced without a home. You no longer have your village. You no longer have your parents. You are there, you are sad, almost wishing you were dead. For those who are like that, to offer one moment, a second of laughter, will offer hope.
With the stage set, the show can begin.
There are a lot of things for women to say, and they must become a voice for the voiceless. Women must be part of the comedy scene, because humor has a message.
The experience has brought the women confidence and the possibility of careers as the leading ladies of comedy in Burkina Faso. Claire McDougall for VOA News, Ouagadougou.
Egyptian woman breaks gender stereotypes in boxing. One Egyptian athlete, Sabah Sarkar, is challenging social boundaries by training men in the sport of boxing in the city of Beni Suef, where tradition often limits women's roles. Sabah, who is a mother of one, coaches about 20 men between the ages of 18 and 30.
Twice a week in a small gym room in the Egyptian city of Beni Suef, 36-year-old Sabah Sarkar coaches young men and boys to box. A woman coaching men may not be unusual in the capital, but in Beni Suef, which lies 100 kilometers south of Cairo, in an agricultural area.
I started boxing by accident. I didn't like it because I was worried about my face, about being hit. But Captain Milegi, my trainer, saw me fence jumping. He saw me playing strength sports, so he asked me what was my name, how old I was, and if I wanted to train in boxing. At first I said no, but here we are.
Yet Sarkar began to do well, winning several championships and more than 10 medals before starting to coach 2 years ago. Now a working mother with one son, she trains around 20 men between the ages of 18 and 30.
This situation wasn't accepted in the first place. As you know, in Upper Egypt, it was hard to train in sports like boxing. Adding that it is a girl doing the training, that made it a bit harder. But after a while, they accepted the situation, finding a girl that trains seriously just like a boy.
She says a serious approach helped her gain respect and trust.
At the beginning, I didn't like this at all. For a woman to train a man, that isn't a very good thing and not favored in Upper Egypt. But with her experience and her excellence, especially given the fact that we don't have a lot of boxing trainers in the countryside, we started moving with her one step at a time, letting her train us.
Her experience and excellence amid a lack of boxing coaches in Beni Suef made him give it a try, and he now enjoys training with her.
And that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Remember, channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Chain Baluno, so thank you for watching. Goodbye.